You're listening to Mando Radio. We're here for episode number 6, Return of the Mando. Pops, how you doing?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Fantastic. We are so close to the launch of The Mandalorian, I can almost taste it.
Yeah. You could probably almost smell it, too.
Perhaps. Tasting it sounds weird, though, because you'd be like looking at your phone.
No, exactly.
I take that back. I can't taste it, but I can feel the excitement.
Yes.
The excitement is palpable. So excited. Okay, to start things off today, we do have a piece of news for today's episode. We have a new clip on social media. This cannot be found on YouTube unless someone has pulled the video out and thrown it up on YouTube. The place to see this is Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. We actually get to hear IG-11 speak in this clip. It's literally 2 seconds long.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play it for you, and I'm not worried because it's literally 2 seconds long. Are you ready?
Yep.
Blink and you'll miss it. Here we go. That was it.
Okay.
So that's what Taika Waititi's contribution to the character has been generated into sounding like a very modulated droid sound there, which is fine. That's kind of what you'd expect, but I did not expect it to sound that cool.
Right.
Like, in my mind, I was thinking like, okay, Taika, it's going to sound like Korg from Thor Ragnarok,
Right.
the character that he portrays,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It doesn't at all. It sounds awesome. So, very, very happy to have this figure here of IG-11. It doesn't make me regret buying it now, because it sounds really cool. Because you never know. You buy stuff, you buy the toys, but until it releases, you don't know.
Yeah, you have no idea.
That's like going all in on The Last Jedi toys, and then where are those receipts?
Yeah.
What did I do with those receipts?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That's the latest news. Last episode we talked about the launch times being the same. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything, because this is it. After this episode, The Mandalorian
We'll be here.
the first episode will be here. I'm trying to think of any news or updates that I'm missing. I don't think so. I think we've covered everything that we know without spoiling it. Actually, that's not true. I'm making the deliberate decision to omit the synopsis of the first 3 episodes. That's been posted on Facebook. I found it.
Oh, really?
You can read a synopsis of episode 1, a synopsis of episode 2, and then episode 3. We could read those, but as soon as I saw those, I scrolled past it. I don't want any spoilers for myself going into each episode. So that applies to our show as well. I'm not going to talk about spoilers without a huge disclaimer up front. So when you are scrolling through your podcast feed and you see one of our episodes that says I haven't figured out the title yet, post-show,
Right.
or after show, whatever the name ends up being,
Debrief or whatever.
you'll know that we're talking about the content of the previous episode. So if you haven't seen it yet, save it for later. Download it, wait till you've seen the episode, then come back and join us.
Right.
Because I would not want to be contributing to anyone having the show spoiled for them. Forgive me. I got a little tickle in my throat. Okay, let's move on. Let's continue our spotlights, our final spotlight for today, or for this first few episodes, because until the show launches, we're not sure who to feature next. So it's perfect timing. This is the number 5 top billed actor. When you go through all the information for The Mandalorian, just scrolling down the screen, Nick Nolte. He portrays the Ugnaught that says that he's never met a Mandalorian, but he's read the stories, or heard the stories, I forget. So here's his mini bio. Born February 8th, 1941. Also 6 feet tall, but definitely not in The Mandalorian. Because Ugnaughts are not
big
that
creatures.
tall.
Yep.
Nick Nolte was born in Omaha, Nebraska, to his parents who worked in irrigation pump sales. That's interesting. He began his career on stage at the Pasadena Playhouse and in regional theater productions. His breakthrough role was in the TV miniseries Rich Man, Poor Man in 1976, playing the role of Tommy Jordache. Nick Nolte said that when he played a young man in the early scenes of the project, he weighed about 160 pounds. When he played a middle-aged man in the later scenes, he weighed over 180 pounds. I don't know why his bio has so much information about that TV show, but apparently that's significant.
Okay.
It's just weird. Not sure why they did that.
Right.
He has 3 trademarks. Number 1 is he frequently plays crazed and unstable characters.
Mm-hmm.
Ugnaughts, I don't think, are crazed or unstable.
No.
His second trademark, he has a cold, unsettling stare. And his third trademark is he has a deep, husky voice. Very interesting.
Yep.
Oh, and get this. The first piece of trivia, he, along with Christopher Walken, were both considered for the role of Han Solo in 1977 for Star Wars.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's really cool. Okay, I think that's it for... Yes. He has a long storied history as well, similar to Werner Herzog.
Yeah.
They're similar in age, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next portion of our show. We're on to Reflections of Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, 1983. Where were you when the Return of the Jedi came out?
Oh, I was working. No, I was in university. Still in university. Yeah. Oh, I was working part-time, but yeah, I was going to U of T. So, yep, I remember seeing it more than once. Definitely enjoyed that movie. I felt it was a nice way to wrap up the 3, again, tying up loose ends in a very satisfying kind of end to the original trilogy.
Awesome. U of T. So would you have watched it downtown or at home?
Oh, I'm pretty sure we watched it at the theater. There was a theater near where we lived, so I'm pretty sure that's where we saw it. There were actually 2 theaters not far from us, so we would have watched it there.
Nice.
Yeah.
And was that the day of drive-in theaters?
Yeah, drive-ins were still popular, but I mean, we lived in downtown, so I mean, there were 2 theaters within walking distance of us near a subway station in Toronto, and so we went to one or the other.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. So when you think about Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, what's the first thing that comes to mind? What's the most memorable part of this episode of Star Wars, the Skywalker saga? What would you say?
I don't know. I mean, there were a bunch of things that happened that are kind of cool, that kind of jump out. You think of the Ewoks, obviously, we're introduced to the Ewoks, and the speeder bike races through the forests. And I mean, as you know, that was filmed in Northern California, where the redwoods are, and I mean, that was interesting scenery and an interesting bunch of footage that they did there.
I don't think they would let you blow up tree stumps in Redwood Forest
No.
anymore like they did back then.
Yeah, exactly. I enjoyed as well the scenes with Jabba, and obviously when Leia dispatches Jabba, because Jabba's not a nice guy, let's be honest, and so that was kind of a cool thing to see. And then obviously the confrontation between Luke and Darth Vader, and the resolution that you get to that near the end of the movie, where you really, you wonder, Luke thinks there's still good in his father, and you're like,
Doesn't look
yeah,
like
I don't
it.
think so.
There's every indication that there isn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Every turn, every single thing. He's so convinced he won't take him to the Emperor.
Yep.
He's so convinced that he won't fight him.
And
he does.
Yep.
Every step of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just rewatched half of Return of the Jedi this afternoon with my son, and that stood out to me actually was Luke's optimism.
Mm-hmm.
A far cry from where we find him in Episode 8, but just totally convinced that he knows that his father is still has redeeming qualities.
Mm-hmm. Even though when you think about it, he's almost like the incarnation of evil in these movies. I mean, you know, Darth Vader and the Emperor anyway. I mean, you don't think, what redeeming qualities could this guy who goes around choking his underlings to death possibly have? Right?
Yeah.
So,
via the Force across
mm-hmm.
like space.
Yeah.
Over transmission.
Yeah.
Like how he dispatches Ozzel.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's yeah. So weird. And then to think about everything that's Vader's done. We see some of it in the films, but to think of like what they showed us in Rogue One, where Vader is pursuing the rebel soldiers that have the Death Star data disk, and how he just dispatches them like
mm-hmm.
it's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's sweeping the floor.
Yeah.
It's like so terrifying in Rogue One when he does that.
Mm-hmm.
That's Vader,
mm-hmm.
and he does that a lot in the story.
Right.
There's a VR game, Vader Immortal, three episodes I think, that is official Star Wars canon now, and I think there's a lot of Vader kicking butt.
Oh, okay.
Or kicking names and taking butt, as Mantis would say.
Right.
But so for me, when I think of Return of the Jedi, I think of probably Endor. Endor and the Battle of Endor, and just Luke and Vader. And Luke's really come into his own in this film. Just, we finally get to see, this is the first time anyone's ever seen like a fully powered Jedi Knight in the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we see Obi-Wan and Vader fight, they're one's like 60% machine, and the other one's really old.
Right.
And then the lightsaber battles in Empire, Luke has no clue what he's doing. So it's in Return of the Jedi we actually get to see, okay, here's what a Jedi Knight can do.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really cool to see that in the initial watchings. It's
right.
been surpassed now by what they did in even Episode 1, but
mm-hmm.
it was really cool to watch and to see.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just the redemption of Anakin Skywalker ultimately
mm-hmm.
at the end.
Right.
Which we thought had some finality to it. We thought, okay, he literally just chucked the Emperor down a shaft, and there was some big explosion thing at the bottom,
mm-hmm.
supposedly. When
right.
he hit,
yep.
we thought he was dead.
Yeah.
The trailers for Rise of Skywalker indicate otherwise. Certainly his voice is back,
mm-hmm.
but in what capacity and how much is he really back? I don't know, but there's hopefully some explanation,
mm-hmm.
because like from the time that Vader chucks him down the shaft to the time that the Death Star blows up, the second Death Star blows up, is on the screen like 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So what's he gonna do after falling down the shaft to get out,
right.
to survive?
Yep.
Because the Death Star's, boom, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least we thought.
Right.
I'm not sure. So many questions now.
Yep.
So much of Return of the Jedi was like, yes, okay, we know this, but now there's so many questions now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I've been mulling over in my mind when I think about Return of the Jedi, those questions.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't know yet from the trailers of Rise of Skywalker if the Death Star throne room that we see is from Yavin or from Endor.
Right.
Because Endor that we see in Return of the Jedi is forest. We don't see any water. But presumably if you have that much forest, there's got to be water somewhere.
Yeah.
But also it could be Yavin, but we don't know.
Right.
So. But yes, so Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, is... Let's talk about the closing scene now. The closing scene, initially, And the initial theatrical release was purely a Ewok celebration,
Right.
and that was it. It was just the main cast and all of the Rebel soldiers, and even Wedge. Wedge lands his X-wing on Endor. Where does he land?
Mm-hmm.
They blew up the bunker. Where does he land? Anyway, the
Yep.
Falcon gets landed on Endor. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but they land and they're celebrating. But then George changed it with the special edition. The one I just watched. He added in celebration scenes, and they added a new. They changed the song, or they added a new song.
Mm-hmm.
Because the song used to be different, didn't it? So now you see people celebrating on Tatooine. You see people celebrating on Coruscant.
Right, on other planets.
You
Yep.
see people celebrating on Cloud City. But then, again, when the Blu-rays were released, they changed it again. Because when Special Edition came out, the prequels hadn't been created. So now the final celebration includes Naboo.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's other ones, but I can't recall. But I remember as I'm watching Special Edition, I'm like, where's Naboo? Oh yeah, they haven't been there yet in
Right.
'95.
Yep.
Special Edition didn't have Naboo yet.
Yeah.
So there's probably other ones missing that I forgot. But so this is where the galaxy is. This is why we went through this exercise of talking about each of the episodes of the Skywalker saga up to this point, because it's here at this point. The Empire has been defeated. As far as we know, the Emperor is dead. The second Death Star was destroyed. The Star Destroyer Executor, the flagship, was destroyed. There's still Star Destroyers left, but they're not as big.
Mm-hmm.
There's still Imperials left, but the majority of their forces would have been in this counteroffensive, this booby trap to stop the rebels. But the rebels were successful. So presumably the Empire's strength has been depleted and the rebellion won. So now the Republic needs to be rebuilt. And from what we learn in The Force Awakens, safe to say we know this, the Republic does not get rebuilt around Coruscant for whatever reason. Because Starkiller Base, when Starkiller Base fires its weapon and destroys the Republic, the New Republic, it doesn't blow up Coruscant. So presumably the New Republic does not center around there. So what happens? And this is the story that we're going to start enjoying very shortly in The Mandalorian. The Empire, all of that infrastructure has crumbled. There's just little pockets left, right? So if you were on detail as an Imperial, you were on detail on a planet doing something, I don't know, harvesting or just policing. Now all of a sudden you're cut off from resources, you're cut off from backup, all of the big guns are gone.
Mm-hmm.
You're completely on your own. And so that's the story we're going to get.
Right.
Which is going to be really, really interesting because there will be, you can assume there's going to be pockets of the galaxy where the Empire, the people that are left in the Empire are able to hold on to some amount of control, some amount of power. Because if they've got a Star Destroyer still, that's pretty menacing.
Yeah, exactly.
It can cause some damage.
Yep.
But it would appear as though the stories we're going to see are going to involve a lot of stormtroopers meeting their demise. Because from what we know, we always get spoilers and little tidbits from the toys, from Hasbro. They've put up for pre-order in the Vintage Collection 3 3/4 Star Wars action figure line. And they say they're from The Mandalorian. They're called Remnant Stormtroopers. And it's basically your standard Stormtrooper, but they look like their armor hasn't been cleaned, or they don't have replacement parts, because they're a remnant of the Empire. They don't... Whatever happened to the factory that was making their armor is no more. And for whatever reason, they don't have time or the resources to clean their armor, so that's interesting. So I'm trying to think of what else we could talk about. Yeah, I think that's about it for reflections of episode 6, because that kind of ties into the Mandalorian. Oh, and I guess we could talk briefly about what do the rebels do? What do they get up to? Right. For whatever reason, Leia does not go on to become a politician. She would rather lead the resistance. or be involved with the Resistance. But other people that fought for the cause of the rebellion, for example, Cara Dune's character, Gina Carano's character, Cara Dune, is an ex-rebel shock trooper
Mm-hmm.
that just goes on to be a mercenary.
Right.
So it's interesting how those threads are all gonna
Mm-hmm.
separate and tie back in together, and
Right.
we'll pick them up shortly, in just a couple of days.
Yeah.
All right. I think anything else you want to talk about Return of the Jedi?
No, I mean, I guess, I felt that the scene where Darth Vader asks Luke to take his mask off was very effective. And, I mean, I feel like, I could be wrong, but I feel like that's really the first time that we see Darth Vader without his mask.
In Empire, we see the back of his
Yeah,
head
just the
as
back.
helmet comes
Yeah,
down.
exactly, right? But this is where you actually see his face. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think that was a very moving and, well done part of kind of the wrap up of the original trilogy.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And then we see that actor again as a Force ghost.
yes. Yeah, at the celebration, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In the original release and in special edition.
Mm-hmm.
But then after the prequels, for whatever reason, even I can't figure this out. I love everything George Lucas did, but this one I can't figure out.
Right.
They replaced them
Yeah.
with Hayden Christensen
Yeah.
for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not sure why.
I'm
Yeah.
confused.
Yeah.
I haven't read any interviews about why he made that change. I'm sure they're
Yeah.
out there, but
No, I feel like it kind of detracts from the emotional punch of that scene, right? I mean, when it's
of the Force ghosts,
yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, exactly.
What was his name? What was the actor's name?
Oh, you're talking about David Prowse who played?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's not David Prowse. When
No.
they take the mask off, it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
David
it's somebody
Prowse.
else. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. What's his name? Sebastian Shaw. There we go.
Okay.
I knew it was on the tip of my tongue. I
Yep.
couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actor is Sebastian Shaw, with the white makeup and the scarring and the
Mhm.
Force ghost.
Mhm.
Sebastian Shaw.
Okay.
So if you're listening to this and you're under the age of 20 and you've never watched the special edition because you've only ever had the Blu-rays, you've never seen the Force Ghost scene with Sebastian Shaw.
Right.
That scene has only ever been Anakin Skywalker, Hayden
Yeah.
Christensen for you
Mm-hmm.
as a Blu-ray watcher only.
Yep.
You gotta go back and watch the old versions.
Yeah, you got
Go
it.
get your hands on some VHS cassettes if you can find them somewhere. They'll be at maybe not a pawn shop, but a thrift shop. They'll be at a
Mhm.
thrift shop for you.
Check Value Village.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to Star Wars merch. This is a short one, but I think it's important. You mentioned a couple episodes ago about how Japan has really latched on to Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing says or proves that or demonstrates that more than this. Star Wars
Star Wars.
lightsaber chopsticks.
Okay.
I had a set of these. I bought them at Fan Expo Toronto, or they call it Fan Expo Canada, but it's in Toronto. And I love them. I use them all the time. But then one of them got borrowed by someone who was playing with it as a toy, as a lightsaber, and then the other one went missing.
Oh.
And then when I got one of them back, it had been through the dishwasher. Didn't hold up in the dishwasher.
No.
So that was it. That was the end of my Luke Skywalker blue Star Wars chopsticks.
Too bad. Imported from Japan too. Eh?
Yeah.
Were they plastic?
It was like an acrylic.
Oh, okay.
So it was like a really, really strong, shiny kind of
Mhm.
plastic.
Mm-hmm.
Something safe for eating.
Right.
So you
right.
wouldn't get
Yeah. You don't have to worry about the paint or
chemicals,
whatever.
petrochemicals.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting bit of licensing.
Yep.
The ones available right now on Amazon are made by Kotobukiya, if you're curious. I'm not sure who made the ones that I had back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been a few years ago, but the ones you can get now, that's who makes them.
Right.
So, chopsticks.
Cool.
Love it. I hope there's some Mandalorian chopsticks. Or maybe there'll be a Mandalorian taser in the shape of the forked prong
Oh,
blaster.
Yeah, that would be nice. You could use that as a fork.
I'm just kidding.
Right.
I'm just kidding. Okay, let's move on to tech review. I think the only tech we need to talk about from Return of the Jedi, although there's lots to choose from, you mentioned the speeder bikes; those were awesome. The second Death Star was really cool because it was a gotcha. The Emperor's like, "Hey, guess what? It's working!"
Right. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the capital ship gets destroyed. I think the only one we need to talk about today is Mandalorian armor. In Empire Strikes Back, we don't actually get to see Boba Fett use his armor. In Return of the Jedi, we do. And he uses his is it grappling hook? What would you call that? Where he ties you up. He shoots it out of his.
Oh, right. Okay.
There's a name for it. I
Yep.
apologize.
Yep.
I can't think of what the name is. And his jetpack. We see that
Right.
his jetpack is functioning.
Yeah.
Much
Because
to
it's
his
yeah.
chagrin, because that's what
It's
how
it's Han. It's Boba Fett. Where? And
Yeah.
then
he ends up in the Sarlacc. But yeah, Mandalorian armor. Very, very significant. Very unfortunate that they dispatched of him in such a rude way, but definitely cool. Welcome to see Boba Fett again delivering Han to Jabba the Hutt, because we're going to be seeing an awful lot of Mandalorian armor soon.
Right.
I had assumed it would just be the Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal's character, that we would see. Literally today, there's been a leak from Hasbro of a figure in Mandalorian armor.
And it's not the main character.
Not the main character.
Okay.
Plus, we saw the blacksmith.
Right.
So we're gonna be seeing lots of Mandalorians,
Mhm.
or at least a few. So that's something to look forward to. So that is our tech review for today. Okay, let me think. Is there anything else you'd like to cover? Anything else you want to talk about?
I just, wanted to reinforce. I mean, like I said, for the end of episode 3, I felt that it was a very effective episode 6. The Return of the Jedi was effective in tying up loose ends and kind of putting a bow on the story. And, I mean, in terms of critical reviews and reception, I think of the original trilogy, the middle one was the one that in the long term was probably the most well received. Not initially, but over time people looked at it and said, yeah, that's a darn good movie. And unfortunately, time maybe hasn't been as kind to the third one, but I feel like, of the trilogy, you need all 3 parts, and I felt that it was an effective way to wrap it up, to finalize the story. And by the time you're watching the third movie, these are characters that you know and love, right? I mean, C-3PO and R2-D2 and Yoda, and so, I think that it was a very effective way to wrap up that initial trilogy. So that's all I wanted to say about episode 6.
And you get a lot of the, I hate the word chemistry, but that's what you get with the main cast too.
Mm-hmm.
They've been around each other for how many years now?
Yeah.
And them playing off each other and making little jokes, like when Han Solo is trying to tell 3PO to tell the Ewoks that they need to be set free, or I forget the dialogue exactly, but it's like Han's like surprised and he's about to get up to strike 3PO, and then the Ewoks get their spears out, and Luke's in the background just like laughing and things.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
you really appreciate that, because it just seems really natural.
Yeah.
Because that's just how they interacted with each other.
Exactly.
Very comfortable with each other. So
Yeah.
definitely a well received film. I loved it. I love Return of the Jedi. Super, super awesome. All right. I think that's it. That's it for tonight.
Okay.
The next time you hear from us will be after The Mandalorian has begun being released on Disney Plus. Stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button on your provider of choice. We are on all the platforms now. Did you know that? I didn't even tell you that yet.
No.
We are on every single platform with one exception. And I'm going to fix it tomorrow because I know how to fix it. We're on every single streaming platform for podcasts except for Google Play Audio.
Oh.
Or whatever it's called. Google Play something.
Okay.
So if you listen to us on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn, anything, it's there. Mando Radio is global.
Okay.
Just got to fix Google. I'll fix it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But anyways, thank you so much for joining us.
we hope you'll join us next time.
The Force will be with you.
Always.